Hey everybody, so today I've got a really interesting conversation for you with Steven Bollschweiler, who's a video content creator and strategist. I met him through LinkedIn and his work really stood out to me, particularly because of what he's doing now during this economic downturn. While other businesses are slowing down or stopping completely, Steve is not only still working, but he also just took on a new employee, helped one client achieve £60,000 worth of new sales over 6 days, and entered into talks with 3 new clients, all since the beginning of lockdown. I hope you enjoy this conversation and go ahead and leave a comment if you've got any questions. I'd love to start a conversation with you about how your business is doing during these new and unusual times.
If you could introduce yourself and just tell me a little bit about your business. Who do you serve and how?
Just over 3 years ago, I moved to Cardiff with pretty much nothing apart from a small camera and a tripod. No, I didn't even have a tripod. But basically, I moved to Cardiff and I didn't really know anyone. I didn't want to get a part-time job and start trying to start a small business and stuff like that. So I just sort of jumped in and started a business, went self-employed, and kind of made it happen. And then sort of 3 years later, I'm now running what the company is now called Insight Video Marketing. Before all this kicked off, literally about a week before lockdown, I employed my first employee into the business.
So you managed to hold on to your employee even with the change of situation?
Yeah, at the moment, I think it happened in a really weird time because it happened after the 28th of February. So I'm not eligible to furlough him or myself. So I kind of was kind of like, okay, fine. But it's on a government scheme. So for my first employee, they're helping me with the salary. Yeah, it's not ideal. I've had a huge contract cancelled. I was supposed to be going out to the USA to film for 5 days at the end of May, and that's just gone. So that was kind of a big hit. But I've basically kind of told myself, look, yeah, this is happening. You have lost some income, but to be honest, I've worked too hard getting to where I am now to let anything stop it from carrying on. So
I think that's interesting. You're definitely like kind of a really key point of growth, just taking on your first employee. And then that's really interesting that all of this happens. You're not able to furlough them. But yes, you've still got a really, I think, positive mindset. And as you said, you've put in so much work already, but you don't want to just let that go to waste, you know?
Mindset is really, really important. I think being positive and looking at where you've come from in business and what you've learned and that you have overcome difficult things in business before, because anyone who's been in business for any amount of time has had to overcome difficulties. You know, this is unprecedented, of course, but it's still a difficulty that can be overcome if you put your mind to it and you stay positive. And I think that's really key.
Yeah. What would you say as business owners is one of the main things that we can learn from the current situation? You know, is there one sort of bit of advice or a lesson that you found particularly relevant?
That's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
I think the biggest thing is try not to stop normal operation as much as you can, if that makes sense. So, you know, definitely things are completely mad at the moment and everything's been flipped upside down. But I think once you've sort of found that sense of normality again, where everything's in place, your business is still running, don't stop those kind of tasks and don't forget about the fact that your business still needs to run, your business still needs to grow. So a lot of people have stopped their Google AdWords and their Facebook advertising and stuff like that in order to save money. But you still need to be out there. You still need to have a voice. You still need to have a presence, even during this, because people are still spending money. People are still buying. So I think to stop kind of business as usual as much as, you know, I don't think that's the way to go. So I think once you've got normal business as usual, as close as it can be, keep those tasks running and keep that growth going, because as soon as you lose momentum, you're right back to square one again. You've got to build that momentum again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to maybe assess things and probably be more risk averse. but to stop doing things and to sort of stop selling, stop buying, and all of that is just going to cause more problems in the long term. And you're jumping on the downward spiral. If you stop all of your advertising, you stop talking to customers, the effects on the economy long term and your business are going to be really, really quite dire, I think.
Yeah.
So like you say, you've got a really good mindset and approach to all of it. What's your customers' reaction been to things, and have you been speaking to customers, and how has that changed?
It's difficult because I think a lot of the bigger clients have definitely kind of taken a big step back, and because they've had to really quickly go remote to keep the business running and get often 200-300 maybe more staff out of offices and into their home and give them the ability to keep doing their job. So of course stuff like video marketing and things like that have taken a bit of a backseat. The conversations definitely have not stopped, but they've definitely calmed down a lot. Things have been put on the back burner that we were talking about and stuff like that, So for me, I think not pushy for them to carry on kind of planning and stuff, but keen for them to do so, perhaps maybe with my own best interests at heart, possibly at the time, and not maybe their needs. And then I kind of realized, actually give them some space to get all of that stuff done and ready so that they're running as normally as they can be. And then they've got the headspace to actually think about other stuff like their marketing, like the way they're going to be running their business going forward. And so now, after a few weeks of this happening, I'm starting to slowly trying to bring the conversation back round to, let's talk about how we can start to plan for when this finishes. And then, because, at the moment, of course, we can do some remote work and things like that, which is really good, but we can't do any full production work, full on filming and full on, on set stuff. So, but we can do all the planning work and we can do all the strategy behind it and figure out what's going to make it work. And we can do all of that remotely, which is great.
It's like let the initial panic settle. And
exactly.
People come to terms with things. I think as well, what a lot of people overlook is that video, at least in my eyes, is at least 90% planning and strategy.
Yeah.
The actual days in production where you need to be out in the field, probably less than 10%.
Minimum. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. And that's it. And then that's, I think, what a lot of businesses, just in general, I think they don't realize that there's all that stuff that goes on before you even think about touching a camera. And that is all stuff that can be done right now. And so that because the thing is, for businesses who aren't already using video or they've been thinking about it, if they get all this planning done now, they can hit the ground running as soon as we get, I was about to say released, but as soon as we're out of lockdown, and then that's going to help them get ahead of their competition who haven't been doing this. And so, it's just about getting that kind of understanding there, really, and bringing the conversation around to that.
Yeah. So would you say you've been adapting your services or changing anything, or is it really a case of just bringing it back to the planning and strategy?
One of my agency clients came to me with a project, which is a series of kind of short coffee morning presentation type things, which we're filming remotely, but the client wants it to look as good as it possibly can. So they're bringing me in to kind of consult on things like framing and lighting and sound and stuff like that. So, and just coaching them through it remotely so that it looks as good as it possibly can in the current situation. I think this has given me opportunity to adapt in a way that allows me to work with smaller businesses a bit more.
Okay.
Because people are scrabbling to kind of start using online video a bit more when they perhaps weren't in their smaller businesses. And I think mainly the thing that stopped smaller businesses and sole traders was kind of budget and a bit of fear. I think fear was a big thing of it, like, I don't want to be on camera, but people are being forced to be on camera now. So actually that barrier is being completely destroyed, whether people like it or not. So it's a great opportunity to kind of go in there and start working with smaller businesses and coaching them on the kinds of videos that they can create in their business to succeed with video, and kind of cut through the noise a bit. So I'm kind of, I suppose it's an opportunity, but one that I've wanted to sort of use it for a while. And it's about, I've done a few workshops, live workshops and stuff for small businesses, and I'm kind of starting to take that online, which I've wanted to do again for a while, but just haven't got around to it. So it's just little things like that are making a difference, and sort of seeing what did I do in business usually for my clients, and how can I continue doing that without face-to-face contact, I think is a good thing. So looking at your offering and seeing what can you actually take online, and how can you make that work.
Yeah, brilliant. So for smaller clients, you've got the workshops that you'd normally do live, and now you're doing online. And then for the bigger client, you've got effectively coaching and showing them how to stream, how to record video and make it look good.
Yeah.
And how does that sort of look hands-on? Is that something that you're sending them like articles on, or are you doing calls with them and telling them how to set up?
So it's kind of a combination of, there's kind of like an onboarding pack where we're going to send them some kit, which within that would be some instructions, which we'll write out. There's also like a kind of a PowerPoint pack that we're sending them, which has got, again, some instructions and some sort of do this, don't do that. Don't sit with a bright window behind you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really practice what I preach all the time. I don't have much choice at the moment, to be honest. But so there's that kind of like, coaching stuff, but then also, as you normally would at kind of a conference or an event, you've got that kind of rehearsal thing where at a real conference, they go on stage, they talk through their presentation. We'd make sure, the AV team would make sure all the sound's working, all the slides work, all that stuff. We're going to do that on a call. So we're going to have like a dry run rehearsal where I can sit there and go, right, okay, so the camera needs to move here a little bit. So the framing's right. We've sent them some simple lighting setups and stuff. And it's just listening to the sound, making sure that all sounds good and things like that, and helping them with any technical difficulties. So it's kind of there for, support when it comes to recording as well. So I'm on the call whilst they're recording, listening, watching, making sure that it all looks good. If they need any coaching with, actual presenting to camera, I can be there to sort of, talk them through that as well. So it's a big kind of support role kind of for them.
Brilliant. Yeah.
It's a good combination.
Working as the expert, being there to offer your experiences and guidance and advice. That's really good. Do you think there are any industries where that kind of coaching and guidance wouldn't be applicable, or do you think it's something that could work for, potentially, other industries across a broad range of businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big, like I said earlier, a big barrier to people doing video, especially this kind of thing where you're talking to the camera, is that kind of that scaredness, lack of confidence. And I think when you've got someone who's an expert, they're kind of almost holding your hand through it and kind of walking you through it and giving you the skills you need there and then as you need them. I think that's an invaluable thing to offer someone. Definitely, like 100%. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, because I think any industry will benefit from having video content within the businesses, whether you're a small business selling products or a big service-based company, there's always going to be room for it. It's just finding what that looks like.
Is there any one thing that you could say has helped with your focus during this time?
Being able to talk about the situation to people has definitely helped a lot, and having my network around me, even when we're remote, it's helped hugely. So I think that's another great tip, is just don't stop talking to people. Don't stop talking to your peers, and don't stop talking to your network, because your network is still there. You may not see them every day, but it's still there. They're still there to support you. And I think that's invaluable. As video production people, we offer more than just a video. And I think you have to really, really understand that. You're not just turning up to a set and pressing record. You're bringing your years of knowledge and expertise that you've learned, maybe at university. If you're just fresh out of university, that's valuable stuff. But your real life experience, you're bringing all of that and you're bringing your experience of what has worked, what hasn't worked, all of that stuff to the table. It's not just what kit you've got and the fact that you can make someone look pretty on camera. And so that's the biggest thing I've learned, is just to value that knowledge as much as possible, and don't let people take advantage of the fact that you're kind of kind-hearted, I suppose, and willing to take on the work. Because as soon as you start to undervalue yourself, it's very difficult to get out of that. And once you set your prices here, which is not where you want your prices to be here, it's very, very difficult to get that client up to here. Like it's really difficult. Yeah, value yourself is is what I've learned in the last 3 years.
Awesome. I think that's a really good point to end on. And I think that is probably the key thing that differentiates yourself as someone who's still running a business and still doing well during the downturn, and those who see themselves as just videographers, the camera operators and editors, the people who are there just to press record and operate the equipment. I think one of the really valuable things you said is that, like, even if you have just come out of university, that there is valuable expertise and experience there, which other businesses, they don't have that, and they need that information, and it's useful to them and valuable.
But you have to train yourself to have a business mind. Coming into a business as a creative person, you really have to train yourself to have a business mind and kind of think the same as the people you're selling to.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people struggle with imposter syndrome, and particularly creatives. But I think that having a business mind and looking at the facts, looking at it from a business perspective, is a really good way to deal with it.
100%.
Yeah.